generations to come in Armenia and the diaspora. I remember being present when he was elected in February of 2002, and what an honor it is to be here tonight, almost 15 years later. Please help me welcome our fearless leader, Mr. Berge Setrakian.
Well, thank you very much. Obviously, we spoke so much the last 3 days that we don't need any more speeches. We all know what global Armenia means. We all know what the global...
This is typically Yervan Demirjan.
No, I have nothing to do with it. Berge, you may think you know everything about the AGBU. We finally managed to do something behind your back without you having a clue about it. Yesterday at our symposium, you said, and I quote, "Power is not given, it is taken." Per your advice, we're taking it from you.
Be my guest.
Berge, you've done enough in your lifetime for the AGBU. Tonight, we're not going to have to listen from you on how majestic our organization is. It is our turn to tell you how majestic you are. We're taking over, and for a change, you're going to hear all of us tonight. Berge, it goes without saying that quite often you are the unsung hero of our organization. Some of our friends here tonight have no idea about the countless hours you spend nurturing our noble cause with wisdom and vision. It is a thankless task, but tonight we are here to say thank you. How can you repay and honor someone who has it all? A beautiful and loving family, a successful career, the respect and admiration he deserves because of his many accomplishments, the tireless leader of the finest Armenian organization. Of course, with a little video. We thought of getting you a gift, but you taught us too well. You taught us how to be cheap. Video, please.
Personnalité, compétence et quelque chose que malheureusement je n'ai pas et qu'il a une mémoire extraordinaire. C'est vrai. Et grâce à ces trois facteurs, Berge est aujourd'hui ce président que l'UGAB avait besoin.
Berge comes to AGBU as the longest serving current member. He was fortunate to work with Mr. Manoukian and Louise Simone and travel the diaspora with Mr. Manoukian. And from that, in recognition of a long, long history of AGBU, he has been able to lead AGBU to the present time with innovative ideas.
He is fully committed to the original mission of AGBU, which was established 110 years ago. And he's remained committed to that vision that established the organization, and yet he has been progressive enough to evolve over time.
I remember we met in Arad, Hayat Hotel in Moscow in 2002, when he just became the president of the AGBU, and he told how it's important to bring Russia and eastern part of the world to AGBU, how it's important to engage young people to be part of the AGBU movement, how it's important to bring more connectivity with Armenia and build AGBU not only in the diaspora but also in Armenia.
With Berge you will feel connected, whether you're from the Middle East, from France, from the States or Armenia. And he has this ability to transmit his passion.
She's just a very inspirational person. And his enthusiasm for the AGBU and the Armenian people, it just, it pours out of him, and it's contagious.
Berge's energies have never flagged for the entire time I've been on the board and before that.
He attracts senior people to his team on the board. He attracts lots of young people to AGBU continuously.
He's a very intellectual guy. He's very smart, and his vision is to modernize AGBU.
What Berge has done is that he's looked at the Armenian reality and within a wider global context, and he has observed the changes that are occurring, and he recognizes that we need to break the myths or shatter some of the familiar patterns with which we've been operating and introduce new approaches.
He is not afraid to make decisions that would be in the best interests of AGBU and of Armenia, even if it means that his role in the organization might evolve or change. And that is really a true leader, because he's not looking out for his own aggrandizement, but rather what is going to be the best in the future for the organization and for AGBU.
He's understood and realized that Armenia should be at the center of the diaspora. And it's not just a nice have, a sideshow. He's understood that Armenia could anchor our culture, could anchor our community.
He does love his homeland. He does love his role in the Armenian community, and whatever we do at the board meetings or other discussions we have all aims towards what can we do to help Armenians worldwide.
Berge is really focused on the entire Armenian community, the entire nation's interests. Frankly, for example, Berge is just as dedicated to the church. He says to us all the time in meetings, I love AGBU, and AGBU is a wonderful organization, but AGBU is a luxury. The church is a necessity. So just in that statement, you see how broad his interest is and how broad his vision is.
He is probably one of the most effective, one of the most objective, and one of the strongest advocates and partners for the global Armenian nation. And when we say global Armenian nation, we're talking about the Republic of Armenia, the Republic of Artsakh, and the many diasporas that make up what we consider the diaspora. But we are really one entity, and so he has transformed the vision of AGBU to reflect the needs of that evolving global Armenian nation.
I think Berge realizes the role AGBU can play in helping define what are the organizational and as well kind of ambitions of the whole nation that could get the diaspora and the state to work as one and to forge a bright future together. And I think he understands that that's really the new calling of a leader of AGBU.
If I would imagine Berge without AGBU or AGBU without Berge, it would be hard. And Berge would have done, again, something big for the Armenian nation. And in doing that, in searching how to do it, I think he would have, even if he weren't an AGBU member or a central board member, he would have found AGBU if AGBU was there.
He told me long ago that when he was born, his father first enrolled him at AGBU as a member, and then went to the civil authorities to report his birth. So DNA is all AGBU from Berge's birth to today.
Before I join my seat and prepare for my legal defense, let me introduce to you Levon Nazarian with this little vignette. He will be leading the charge against Berge tonight. A few years ago, Vihapar was in town and the AGBU hosted a small get-together for him at the Metropolitan Club. Nazarian just went to the podium and started to say a few words, and a few minutes later, he casually mentioned that he would like to donate $1 million to the seminary project. Another one of his random acts of kindness. My father turned to Nazar's son, Levon, who was at our table. Levon, did you know that your dad was going to pledge $1 million tonight? His answer was funny and telling. How could I have known? He did not even know. He probably just decided to do it during the speech. Yvonne, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Yvonne. So this is a mini roast, Berge, as you may be expecting. So I've had the, I'm being given the honor of roasting you because of a dual role here of being both a cousin and a board member. Okay, so the way this started was that I was basically given a fantastic menu of some very incriminating photographs to choose from in order to set up this speech. So this speech or presentation will be entitled Berge Setrakian, the Many Sides of an AGBU Legend. Okay, so in going through the various slides, I came across, let's go back to that first one, please. We can go if this works. Does it go backward, please? Thank you. Okay, so this picture I came across, and I really thought that this was a terrific view of Berge, the alpha male. Okay, because at first this may seem like a very innocuous photograph, but if you look at it more carefully, this really tells you a lot about Berge. So here he is having won a cup for something or other, and there he is staring into the camera, very proudly holding it, his hand on top of the other hands, and he clearly is the leader of the pack here. Now, the guy on the left, he's not confident enough to look into the camera, and also he seems a little bit weirded out by the fact that Berge's arm is around him, and he manages to get about 4 fingers onto the cup, but he still is touching the cup. What I really felt sorry about is the guy on the right. The guy on the right has fear. I think he has fear not only that he's not going to be able to touch the cup, but it looks like he thinks he may even be cropped out of the photograph. But this picture, seemingly a very innocent one, I think tells a lot about how Berge is the alpha male. In any group, he is the leader, and there's no question about it. Now, the only time he was not an alpha male, this is the only picture I saw where he was a soldier and not the general in the army here, but this is not a role that Berge really plays very well, being the soldier. So this next picture is really more like it. So here he is practicing for future AGBU meetings as a scout leader, and this is pretty much how AGBU meetings go at this point. There's Berge and basically practicing his leadership style, which is I talk and everybody else listens. Now, very few people look at Berge as an athlete. You know, you may think that, but I was able to find him in certain athletic endeavors, but then we came across something kind of interesting. So, you know, here he is as a volleyball star. At first you'd say, well, there he is with his volleyball teammates. Well, notice he's in street clothes, it appears here, right? So he's letting the other people do the work, while he actually is standing there in street clothes. So I thought that was kind of odd. Now that theme sort of continues. Here he is in street clothes, of course, playing foosball. You might say, well, that's not a very athletic pursuit, but it is good for the forearms and wrists. You know, you might work up a slight sweat after a couple beers, in fact. So he was a foosball star. And, of course, a basketball star, again continuing the theme of Berge performing athletics in his street clothes. This is something which seems to run rampant throughout these pictures. Here he is showing his one-handed set shot from the foul line while astonished onlookers cheer him on. Now, Berge is always the innovator in exercise. This is a new exercise he came up with entitled Teeter-Totter Pilates. You know, Berge is a very busy guy between AGBU and his work, and of course he has to take care of his grandchildren, so he actually found a way to perform Pilates while pushing his granddaughter Mila on the teeter-totter, so I thought that was, you know, he's always an innovator, and this is, unfortunately, this is not something that this craze hasn't really caught on, but Berge got some good exercise out of it. Now, the Armenian Elvis period is one that isn't necessarily well celebrated, okay? But here we have Berge as the Armenian Elvis. Again, you can see his absolutely adoring fans behind him. They're just so excited they can barely even stand it. And of course, there's the real king to the right. And you can see there's quite a resemblance here. Now, Berge's recording career, unfortunately, was very short-lived. He had 3 failed Armenian Elvis hits. You Ain't Nothing But a Tushnug was this first one, Jailhouse Kef, and then of course the one that really ended his career, Let Me Be Your Berge Bear. This one did not take off at all, and unfortunately that was it for his singing career. And then so he went back really to his comfort zone, humbled. He returned to AGBU, his recording career being over and having no longer wearing those dark glasses. Occasionally he will still make a cameo though on Dancing with the Armenian Stars, so it's not, showbiz is not totally over for him, as you can see here. Now Berge is a partier, and he likes to have a good time. Here he is sharing a hookah with, I recognize my cousin Levon there on the right, and I'm not sure who that is on the left, but Berge does like to have a good time, and it's not only his generation that he has a good time with, but I thought this was a nice picture, sharing a cigar with his nephews, and this is something that many of us have done with Berge, sharing a cigar, and it's nice to go out to his porch in his house and just shoot the breeze while we're sharing a cigar with him. Now Berge is also a fashion plate. Now I'm not quite sure when I came across this picture, I really wasn't quite sure what he was wearing here. I mean, it looked almost like something he had pulled off a dying Eskimo, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. You know, some kind of Native American ritual, or I'm not exactly sure what it was. But then I realized there was another picture in the same sequence that was on the disc. And I realized this was what he was wearing during the opening of AGBU Antarctica. This was, so here he is signing the opening of the AGBU chapter in Antarctica. And so that explains that really, I'm not sure if this is still in your closet, Berge, but if so, we'd like to see it when it gets colder out. Berge the chef. So I like this slide because it combines 3 things that Berge likes very much: food, drink, and talking, you know, and you can almost smell the shish kebab and hear Berge pontificating here, and so he's a man of multiple sides. Of course, one of the sides is being a grandfather, so this is one of the few times you'll see Berge kissing somebody's feet. So here's kissing the feet of his. This is of Mark, his first, and then of course we have one with Mila here. He's kissing the hand, and then and the newest one, Vivi, as well. So of course he's an adoring grandfather to his grandchildren, and he's an inspiration to them as well. Now, at first I thought this picture was kind of interesting. This is in the AGBU office with his first grandchild, Mark, kind of mesmerized by this picture. Of course, my enthusiasm for the picture was tempered by the fact that I realized that his grandchildren are actually not allowed to watch any television and are forced to watch Berge's picture 4 hours a day each. Which I'm not sure I was so crazy about that picture after that. But nevertheless, if it works for them, who am I? You know, I raised 3 kids, who am I to judge? And Berge the dreamer, of course. And we know that when Berge is dreaming, he doesn't sleep much, I bet, but when he does, he's always dreaming of AGBU and how to make it better. And of course, we all are better for it. And so, we salute you, Berge, and I actually get the honor of lifting a glass to you. So if they could put this camera back on me, please. Okay, so I'm going to drink a toast to my cousin Berge, a fantastic husband, father, grandfather, cousin, friend, and visionary who is leading the Armenian nation into the future. Thank you, Berge, for everything. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Of friendship, we do have one other short video, which is the theme is on Berge as a friend. So we'll roll that video now. Enjoy it.
One of the 3 adjectives to describe Berge, I would rather say there are 3 Berges. You have Berge the friend, you have Berge the consigliere, and of course you have Berge the AGBU. As a consigliere, he's up to his game, and as everybody knows, he's very sought after. And whenever you have any legal trouble, he's always there to help you. And he sometimes even does it pro bono, which is not something typical of Italians. As a friend, he's a friend to a fault. Whenever you're in trouble, he's always there to help you, and he will spend hours and days to get you out of your mess. And I have been in some mess myself.
I met Berge when we were both in our late teens, and he was always, in any circle, he was the one that everybody would see. He was big in size, but at the same time he was big. I mean, he was always the leader, and he always was directing the whole act. I mean, all the plans, everything what was going on, he was in charge of everything.
Là, j'ai perçu un garçon qui avait 23 ans, et c'était pas n'importe qui, Berge. Déjà, j'étais sûr et persuadé, mais on avait déjà la vision d'un leader. Et c'est comme ça dans la vie, c'est que quand vous êtes jeune, vous avez déjà un potentiel, et lui, il avait ce potentiel. Mais il avait des moyens intellectuels, et il avait aussi une certaine sérénité. C'est là qu'il y a un garçon qui était assez solide, et je voyais qu'il irait loin, il est allé loin.
So I first met Berge when I was a young teenager in Beirut. And I remember we were at a tennis court, and Vera was with somebody, and I remember thinking, who's this exceptionally hairy person who's hanging out with my cousin Vera? Well, over the years, it's obvious that the amount of hair has diminished. What hasn't diminished is his brilliance, his leadership abilities, and his devotion to his family.
Dad always talks about how he had a very fulfilling but simple childhood, and he always felt Armenian, even though he did not go to an Armenian school. But I think that when you have that in your life, you find your Armenian identity through your family and through your experiences, obviously through his scouting, through his sports, and his friends. And I know that specifically with his family and with his brothers, he has lots of stories, but knowing my grandparents, I know that he really got his sense of logic from my grandfather, and he got his physical endurance from my grandmother, who is still strong, and but he got his passion from his uncle, who really showed him what it was like to be a community leader, to be a strong advocate and a wise man. But he got his patience from my mother, or she has to have patience because of him. Let's say that. They balance each other out.
I've known Berge for over 30 years, and I can say he's inspired two very big parts of my life. I think Berge was probably the first lawyer I ever met. And I think he was probably the first AGBU board member I ever met. So when I first met him as a teenager, and this very energetic guy with very big ideas about the Armenian world, and who even then was sort of an encyclopedia of the Armenian world, I was really awestruck by him in a lot of ways. And I was probably 14 or 15, and I asked my parents, I said, well, what does this guy do? And they said, well, he's on the board of AGBU, which is a really important thing and great thing, and it's so impressive he's on the board at such a young age. And I said, well, what's his job? And they said, well, he's a corporate lawyer. We're actually not sure what that is. And I said, you know, I'm definitely a corporate lawyer, and maybe someday I can be on the board of the AGBU.
Berge inspires me to, at the very basic level, to get involved. You cannot sit back these days. You have to get involved. He puts the responsibility on me, is what it is. I feel the pressure.
He makes everyone work like a dog. You go from meeting to meeting to meeting, and at the end of the night, you end up in a nice restaurant and you have a few drinks with him, and he gets very passionate and emotional, and especially if there is an Armenian song or some Armenian something comes, you look at him closely and you see tears in his eyes.
He's a great dancer. He loves to dance. This is, I will say, is a secret. I saw it. He loved to dance.
I like dancing, but he likes to sing.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody loves, you know, when we go out to dinner and then we have a few drinks, and then everybody starts getting louder and louder and louder, and of course, Berge has to sing his French songs.
tu chantes, tu ne sais pas pourquoi. Quand tu chantes, quand tu chantes, quand tu chantes, ça va. Quand tu chantes.
And he always uses this trick that he always sings like half a second before the main singer. So I don't know whether he wants to show that he really knows the word, he's not listening to the singer, or he's just taking also the leadership in that role as well. I don't know, but he always does that. And I'm a musician by hobby. You know, I love music and I play the violin. That really bothers me. You know, when somebody sings half a second before the song, it doesn't sound good. But we love it when Berge does it.
He hosted with his wife and home at the end of the board. And you know, he started to sing Charles Aznavour. I mean, for me, it's like, he's unique. Well, it's Berge, what you would say. Berge is a unique person. I don't think they make him alike. You know, I think they broke, after he was born, they broke the mold. You know. But also it drives many people crazy. I tell you, I mean, like
No, he told me, he's like, oh, you're taking vacation. Oh, you're on vacation. You're on vacation, guys. Yeah, you need to do that too.
You know Berge likes you when he asks you to do more.
You know Berge loves you when he gives you a hard time about how many meetings you've missed.
You know Berge likes you when he, without asking, gets you a vodka and then just keeps pouring it. As soon as it looks like you're almost done, he gets somebody to refill your vodka glass. I think, to me, that was sort of the sign that I had made it with Berge.
And I'm going to tell you, he's lots of fun. It was my birthday, and some people knew it. So Berge, we kept saying happy birthday, and that was just fine. And Berge knows I like vodka. So I had this little shot glass over there. And we were talking over here with the ladies and chit-chatting, and I kept drinking, and I thought it was the same level of vodka, but I didn't realize that he had been filling my glass over and over again through the night. The gist of the story is, I didn't know they brought a birthday cake till the next morning when I saw the photos.
Yes, thank you for all what you have done, but more for the future. Our sons, our daughters, our grandchildren will all appreciate what you did.
Thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for everything, and it's a pleasure to work with you.
Thank you, Berge, for bringing me back to my roots, for taking me back to my culture, and for having me discover this wonderful country that Armenia is.
I can't imagine you're doing anything different and going forward, and I just wish you lots of energy.
I am honored to be serving with you on this board. I always wanted to give you a gift, a meaningful gift, but it's so difficult to get something for someone that has everything. But I think I've figured it out. Just a minute, please. Mr. President, this is for you. No hairspray needed.
Berge, merci de ce que tu es. Berge, merci d'être le visionnaire que tu es. Berge, merci d'être notre ami. Berge, continue comme ça, nous sommes fiers de toi.
We're almost there. When I lived in New York, Berge and I used to speak regularly, sometimes more than a few times a week. After I moved to California, our channel of communication went silent. The few times we spoke and emailed each other, I had to patiently listen to, what kind of a friend are you? You never call. You never ask, how are you doing? You no longer care about the AGBU. Did you just exploit me all these years? I feel used. Berge, let me tell you the truth on why I was missing in action. I was afraid that if we spoke, I would have inadvertently spilled the beans about tonight's takeover. Amongst your many talents, you're very good at extracting information, and amongst my many talents, I have a big mouth. As most of you married men know, we cannot separate a man's accomplishments from his wife's unflinching support. The Vera, thank you for your sacrifice, for babysitting and putting up with Berge on our behalf. We know that you are his rock and the silent advisor behind Operation Berge Inc. Speaking of Vera, one day Berge asked me to meet him at his place. As always, the busiest man I ever met was scrambling and getting ready to go to the airport for one of his weekly trips somewhere. He had a grand total of 2 minutes for me. He rushed to the room. He said I'm late, but he rushed to the room and came back out with a smile. He told me, come and look. My caring wife knew that I was running late. She packed my suitcase. She carefully placed the clothes I'm supposed to wear to the airport on the bed. Then, just to pile on, he said, "Tser odar ginere tezi asan gnayin." Do your wives look after you like this? Naturally, after that comment, I did what any reasonable man would do. I filed for divorce. Berge, I'm proud to consider you as a close friend, and I deem it a high privilege to give you back the podium we stole from you. The coup lasted a grand total of 30 minutes. We wouldn't have dared more than that.
Well, that was a surprise. And I can't believe that the trick worked on me. I'm really upset at myself. How could it happen? I don't have words to thank all those who made this evening what it is. I never thought that this would be a tribute to me, to my family. I thank you all. I thank you all my colleagues on the board of directors who participated in this effort, and all those who put this half-hour clippings together. No matter what we say, we are human beings full of emotion, and sometimes we continue running without looking back. That life is a story and a history. In fact, I am delighted that AGBU has been so much part of my life. It has been so much part of my wife's life, and I feel myself blessed that God gave me and my family the satisfaction and really the pleasure of doing what we are doing for our nation through AGBU. It is a privilege. When they say thank you, I often say we don't need to thank. I have to thank this organization which gave me this opportunity to enjoy every minute that I give it back. And I'm sure many of you present here tonight feel the same way that I feel about this organization. You know, AGBU is not an organization which is a finality. Our finality is the Armenian nation. We have a heritage of 1700 years. There is something which, in spite of all difficulties and challenges that we faced through our history, we survived. We often think, when we are together, about only the last 100 years or 110 years, because we go back always to the genocide issue. But in our existence, we have seen many genocides. We have been persecuted, we have been oppressed. We have ruled part of the world, we have been overruled. We are one of the oldest civilizations of humankind. And this means something that from time to time is to search our soul as to where we come from. We have a DNA which I'm sure, if we find among all of us, a mixture of civilizations. And here today, after almost 1700 years, after the genocide, yet we are standing up together to face the reality. We are proud of our achievements. We have an independent Armenia. Our forefathers saw their dream come true by having an independent Armenia. Our dream is to see a secure, prosperous Armenia, a successful Armenia which brings pride to our new generations in Armenia and the diaspora. This is our dream, and my hope is that during our lifetime we'll see that dream come true. Because having an independent Armenia is a big joy, but keeping it and making it prosperous, that's where the challenge is. And AGBU, like many other Armenian organizations, will all work to make this dream come true. With your help, with your assistance, AGBU will continue prospering. Today we have witnessed, we have paid tribute to a man who was part of the history of the jazz music in America. We have also witnessed new champions, new visionaries, people who have succeeded beyond just being Armenian. People like Berge Setrakian, Michael Aram, Nick Kulajian, and Sheila Pela. These are just symbols. Today, whenever we are watching any program, any TV program, any movies or anything, you know how many Armenian talents are out in this world? Now, one of our duties is to bring everybody together and create really this global Armenian that we have been talking about for the last 2 days. Again, I thank you all. I thank you all for being here tonight.